Call the meeting of the Calvert County Police Accountability Board to order. It's now 10 a.m. on August 10th, 2022. And I want to remind you that this meeting is being recorded and it will be available for view on YouTube. I think it's on YouTube and the county website. You'll be able to access it. I'm Wilson Perrin. I'm the chair of the Calvert County Police Accountability Board, and it's an honor for me to serve on this board. This is our first meeting. This board became effective on July 1st, 2022. Sounds like there's an echo in here.
They're working on it.
So this is our first meeting, and in this first meeting, we have the Police Accountability Board. We have the members, we have 3 members, including myself, of the Administrative Charging Committee, and also a member of the Trial Board. So we'll go through, we'll have introductions. And this first meeting will probably be the only time you'll see this group together in the same meeting, because the role of the ACC, I'll get into that, is quite different than the PAB, and the Trial Board also has a different function. But the main objective of this meeting is to get everybody on board. We've been operating since July 1st, so this is our first meeting. There's been a lot done to prepare for this meeting, and you'll see as we go through. You have a copy of the agenda. And just to review the agenda, we have introductions first, and then I'm going to give you an update on what has been done so far, talk a little bit about the website and the citizen complaint form, talk about training and each of the committees, the committee and the 2 boards. Then we'll talk about the Open Meetings Act, future meetings, topic for future meetings, and public comment. And then we do have an exec session today, because one of the responsibilities of the PAB is to select 2 members of the Administrative Charging Board. So we'll go into exec session for that piece. So members of the PAB, you have the agenda in front of you. I need a motion to approve the agenda unless you have changes to it.
I'll motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. Jones, motion to approve. Do we have a second? Second. Discussion? All in favor of the agenda, of approving the agenda, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. So let's see. Let's go to the first slide. As part of the introduction, we want to get to know each other a little bit better in terms of, this is our first time together. So as we go around, give us your name, which board or committee that you are serving on, what do you like, what do you do for a living, or what you have done for a living if you're retired like me, still busy but retired. What is your favorite thing about Calvert County? And what goal or goals do you wish to accomplish as a member of the Police Accountability Board, the ACC, or the Trial Board? So I'll start on my left and go around, and I'll be the last one. So I'll leave that up. We'll start with Dawn.
All right, good morning. My name is Dawn Lister. I am serving on the Police Accountability Board. I'm an educator in Calvert County. I've taught at Calvert High School for 29 years. This coming year is my 30th year. I just earned my doctorate degree in improving criminal justice education in the high school setting. And my favorite thing about Calvert County is all of the active places that it provides for my family and my friends and I to enjoy: biking, kayaking, running, just doing great activities. I'm participating in the Dragon Boat race this coming weekend to raise money for charity, and that's one of the great things about our county. The goal that I have on the Police Accountability Board is just to participate on the board and do well for the citizens of Calvert County.
Thank you, Dawn.
Hi, my name is Brian Cedar. I'll have to read this. I'm sorry, I don't have it memorized. I'm serving on the Police Accountability Board. I work for the federal government. I'm the chief of the Investigations and Adjudications Division at the United States Patent and Trademark Office. I'm also adjunct faculty at George Washington University and at University of Maryland. My favorite thing about Calvert County is everything. I mean, I've been here for over 30 years now. I've raised a family. My wife is a school teacher in Calvert County, 34 years starting this year. So I love everything about the community and about the county, and I want to preserve things as they have been. The goal that I have here is exactly what the title says. It is just to make sure there's accountability for the citizens and for the police officers who are accused of misconduct, just to make sure that everything is above board, transparent, and that everything goes the way that it should as far as the final disposition.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Leslie Parker. I'm serving on the Police Accountability Board. I've been a Calvert County resident for approximately 32 years. I've attended elementary school, middle, and high school. I graduated from Bowie State University in 2012, sociology with concentration in criminal justice. I'm honored to serve on this board as a woman, but not only as a woman, but as an African-American woman. This gives me the opportunity to advocate on behalf of my community by sharing new ideas, experiences, and perspectives that will lead to better problem solving. Calvert County is an unforgettable experience. Everything about Calvert County is wonderful to me, from the lighthouses to trails to museums to shopping, festivals. My goal, I think right now, serving on the board, is to just make sure that coming together collectively to make sure that our officers are adequately serving and protecting our community. And I'm just honored to be serving on this board.
Thank you.
My name is Suzanne Benedict. I've been in Maryland all my life. I've lived in Prince George's County, Charles County, and now in Calvert County. I currently work at NASA on the Hubble Space Telescope project, but I previously worked as a crime scene tech for Charles County. I've been an accident investigator for NTSB and a technical investigator for Honeywell. My favorite thing about Calvert County is the small town rural feel that it has. I've always wanted to raise livestock, so here I get to do that. I raise sheep. And my goal for the board is to help ensure a fair complaint process for all involved.
My name is Quentin Jones, Jr. I'm a member of the Police Accountability Board as well. I have been in Calvert County all my life and don't plan on moving anywhere else anytime soon. For a living, I work for the Department of Justice full-time, but in my, I guess you could say the rest of my life, I'm a local pastor. I'm a chaplain with the Maryland National Guard. I have a family of 5. I do real estate in my spare time when I can muscle up enough strength to do it. I'm a man of many, fields, if you will. As I said, I've been in Calvert County all my life. My favorite thing about Calvert County is really the historicity of the county. My family has been here since at least 1790. That's about as far back as I've gotten it in my own personal research. And I love the old field. I love the opportunity to preserve some of that legacy and integrity of the county. And so that's why I don't plan on being anywhere. My grandmother probably would kill me if I left anyway. As far as the board is concerned, my main goal is transparency and equity. I do feel that in recent history, our law enforcement has received a negative light on the basis of the actions of a few, and I think that in Calvert County we do have some of the best men and women that have served us over the years. And my effort on the board would not only be to represent men of color and try to bring equity, but also to support those that have served for so long, that they can continue to do the jobs that the Lord has blessed them to be able to do. So thank you for this wonderful opportunity. Looking forward to seeing what we can do together.
Judge.
My name is Larry Lampson. I'm on the trial board. I have been in Calvert County practicing law for 51 years. During that time, I have been the elected state's attorney, a district court judge, in private practice, and a variety of either defense or personal injury work. I am semi-retired. It's a little hard for me to do, but so that's basically my background. My parents bought a place in Sinus Cliffs in 1959. We came down every summer. My father at that time commuted from Sinus Cliffs to NIH, which back then with the road situation was a long drive for Dad. My children went to school here. The grandchildren have graduated from Calvert County Public Schools. My sister just retired from the Career Center after 30-some years, and my stepdaughter is still a teacher at Southern Middle. So I have a lot of vested interest in Calvert County. Calvert County is the rural nature of the county. It's obviously grown in 51 years, but it's still a lot better than Prince George's County. It's just a fun place to live. It's still a sense of community. We live in Long Beach. We know all of our neighbors. It's just it's a wonderful place to live. My goal for service is probably pretty much what Mr. Jones said. It's to ensure that the public has some sense of faith in the system, that we're transparent, recognizing that there are always two sides to every story, and some of these stories that we hear are not factually true, and it's our job to try to figure out what's going on and to balance those interests out. And I look forward to that challenge. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Norman Dorn, and I'm serving on the Administrative Charging Committee. I am a retiree, at least sort of. I echo the sentiment of my previous speaker. I have family and extended family in Calvert County, but I am a recent transplant out of Prince George's County. Favorite thing about Calvert County? I like the fresh air, actually, storms notwithstanding. And my principal goal is to participate in a fair and proper administration of justice, both inside and outside the law enforcement agencies.
Good morning. My name is Stacy Stump. I'm on the Administrative Charging Committee. We've lived in Calvert County for about 22 years. I'm a retired military officer. I was in the Navy for 32 years. And I'm a pediatric nurse practitioner. That's what I did in the Navy and currently doing. I love Calvert County. I raised my children here. I love the outdoor activities. I feel it's just a great place to live. My goal is to be very transparent for Calvert County and the citizens. I also believe that our police are absolutely wonderful, and they've been represented horribly in the media. And I just want to encourage transparency and encourage that everybody gets a fair trial, fair shake in this community.
My name is Lisa Baroni. I am on the Police Accountability Board. I am the office manager for a sales office in Temple Hills. We sell non-destructive testing equipment and some service, and that's things like if you want to test the airplane wings, you don't want to take them apart to see if there's defects inside. So we sell equipment to test without breaking the things. You want to know if they're broken. I have lived in Calvert County my whole life. I grew up on a farm right on the water. So I love that it's still a rural feel, and the access to the water obviously is just amazing. You can do so many things. It's a great place to have a family. And my goals are very similar to the other people here. I just think that the police have been treated unfairly. I think our officers do a fantastic job, and I think that this will help the community, you know, if there's some transparency to see that things are being handled properly.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Alfonso Hawkins, and I am a long-life resident of Calvert County. I am a graduate of Calvert High School. I have 39 years in law enforcement, retired from Prince George's County Police, the Maryland State Rangers, that's now called the Maryland Park Service, and the Maryland Natural Resources Police. I serve on the Police Accountability Board. There are so many things about Calvert that I like. I started out in the tobacco fields, and as far as I'm concerned, it built so much character, and a lot of character, and I'm sure I see many of you laughing because that's what we enjoyed. I love Calvert because it's still country. Despite the traffic, despite the population, it's still country comparatively speaking if we look around at our neighbors. So I plan to be here for a while, like Brother Jones said. And there are so many things about Calvert. It's a peninsula, so there's water all around us. It's almost like America in miniature, if you will. There are so many things to do. Small county, but so many people come here to visit, so that's a great thing. My goal is hopefully that I can be one of the components to help bridge the gap between the community and the police. There's so much going on out there, and yes, we do get a bad rap, and we realize that no matter what profession it is, there's always that 1% that will make the 99% look bad. So we need to deal with that, and I just feel that this board is timely, and I know we're going to do the right thing, and I look forward to moving forward and working with everyone as well as the community. Thank you.
I am Susan Justice. I've been in the county since 1982, raised my children and grandchildren here. I'm on the Police Accountability Board. I am retired. I was the Chief of Safety for a state agency for 30 years. Worked with many different police entities throughout, depending what investigation or incident had occurred. Favorite thing about Calvert County, I like country. I came from country and I enjoy it. My kids have enjoyed it. My grandchildren enjoy it. There's a lot of places that they can go and do things, parks, walks, beaches, staying out of trouble. My goal on the board is to assist everyone with trying to ensure the facts are given. There are facts on all sides, and those have to be provided and then evaluated as facts. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to assist everybody in ensuring that that accountability is made and that there is a fair shake on all sides.
Thank you, Susan. As I mentioned before, Wilson Perrin, I'm chair of the Police Accountability Board and also a member of the Administrative Charging Committee, and that's the role we'll get into later. In terms of what I do, I've retired 4 times, so I keep trying to get it right, and I keep failing at retiring. And I retired on June 2020, and I thought I had it right, and I'm back here again working. But I love serving the community. If there's anything I like about Calvert County is the opportunities it gives all of us to serve the community and to give back. I have served on the school board. I've served also as a county commissioner. And you would think that my career was actually in government. My career was actually not in government. My career is actually in telecommunications and technology. And so I was born and raised in Calvert County, lived here all my life, and I commuted to Washington, D.C., to Silver Spring, to Arlington, Virginia, and always came back at night and on weekends to the calmness of Calvert County and what it had to offer. So I really, I feel Calvert County is very important to all of us. When I think about the goal of what we want to accomplish with this committee in place, it's actually one goal, is that we all here for the same reason. But I was looking at what one thing that would really help us all, the law enforcement, also citizens, and that is one of Stephen Covey's 7 habits, and that is seek first to understand before you understood. What that means to me is getting the facts, understanding what the situation is, so that whatever decision is made based on facts and not bias. So I feel that's an important piece of what we will be doing. And with that, I think we know each other a little bit better now. So let's get to work. I want to talk a little bit about the website. As I mentioned, this board and the committee came about through legislation, but effective July 1st. And there's been a lot of work done in the background to get us where we are today. We do have a website up, and this process started 2021, John, with the hearings we had with the, I think it was 2021.
We started tracking it in the fall of 2020 when it was actually in the Senate, in the General Assembly of Maryland.
So we have been, and many of you probably spoke at some of the public meetings we had as we shaped the entire process that we have in place that the state requires all of the local jurisdictions to have. So I just want to point you to the fact that we do have a website in place. It has information on the Police Accountability Board, the Charging Committee, and also the Trial Board. I just have a sample of what a page would look like there. And we also have required to have an online complaint form where a citizen can have access to send a complaint through the website to us, and we'll talk about that, all the flow and how that will work as we get more into it. We do have a complaint form up on the website right now. We put it up last week. We have not received any complaints. And it's my understanding, since July 1st, I informally asked the Sheriff's Office, have they received any complaints since July 1st? And I think they have 3 or 4 since July 1st. So as we go through what we are responsible for, you will start to see numbers and actions and what has taken place. In terms of, in Calvert County, we're a little bit unique. When you look at, for instance, Anne Arundel County, they have 5 law enforcement entities, including Annapolis and the Sheriff's Office and also the police. In Calvert County, we have the Sheriff's Office and the State Police that provide law enforcement services in Calvert County. The State Police is a little bit different than of course, the Sheriff's Office, and they're covering the entire state of Maryland, so there is a special component there. And when I talked to the State Police in a meeting about a month ago, where when we may get a complaint related to the State Police, but we'll send it to where it should go, and it will be handled as part of a structure that they already have in place. We will track the status. That's part of our requirement. Okay, at this time, I want to go through the complaint process. I talked about the fact a citizen can click on a button and submit a complaint. I'm asking Cindy, and let me back up just 1 minute. I forgot to introduce staff. Sorry about that.
No worries, sir.
Cindy Allen is the liaison for the Police Accountability Board. She's the staff person supporting us. And Liz Drew is the administrative executive supporting us also. So we have 2 people that are dedicated to the functions that we have here. And of course, there's a backup team from the county in terms of we have the director of HR, we have what I call CMR, and that's the Communication and Media Relations team. We also have the county attorney's office, And today we also have the Deputy County Administrator here. So in order to get to where we are, and all those folks are involved in putting together what you see in front of you today. We also have in the audience, I just want to recognize, before we get too deep in here, the State's Attorney, Mr. Harvey. We have several members from the Sheriff's Office, Captain Parrott, Assistant Sheriff McDowell, and Phelps, Sergeant Phelps. I didn't know your title. And from the State Police, Shane. Yes, sir. Shane Bolger and. Yes, I just drew a blank on your name. Welcome all of you to sit in and as we get this whole process started. So now let's get into the flow of a complaint when it comes in. What happens to a complaint when it comes into our website? Cindy?
Yes, sir. So there's two ways that citizens can file a complaint. They can fill out the complaint form on the PAB website, or citizens can also file complaints directly with the law enforcement organization. So once the complaint is filed, if it comes through the PAB website, we have 3 days to forward that complaint to the respective law enforcement agency. If it's a complaint against the Sheriff's Office, of course, it'll go to the Sheriff's Office. If it's a complaint against the Maryland State Police, we will forward that complaint to the Maryland State Police. We also may receive a complaint for Natural Resources or the State Fire Marshal. So whoever the complaint or whatever agency the officer works for, the complaint will then be forwarded to that law enforcement agency for investigation. The PAB has to file the complaint within 3 business days to the law enforcement organization. Once the complaint is forwarded to the appropriate law enforcement agency or the law enforcement agency receives the complaint is then investigated. Once the investigation is complete, the investigation will go to the Administrative Charging Committee for review. If the complaint is on a deputy, it'll come to the Calvert County ACC. If the complaint is against a state officer, it goes to the state's Administrative Charging Committee at the state level. The Administrative Charging Committee can come to 2 conclusions. They can conclude that the officer should be charged or not charged. If the officer is not charged or found that if the ACC determines that the allegations are unfounded or the officer is exonerated, the ACC will issue a written opinion detailing the findings and their determination within 1 year and 1 day of the filing of the complaint, and that ends the process. If the ACC determines that the officer should be charged, again, within 1 year and 1 day of filing of the complaint being issued, the ACC will issue a written opinion detailing the findings, determinations, and recommendations, and any recommendations for discipline according to the state disciplinary matrix. That recommendation goes back to the law enforcement entity. The law enforcement agency executives can offer discipline recommendation, or you can offer discipline recommendations by the ACC or higher level in accordance to the matrix within 15 days. At that point, the officer has the opportunity to accept the discipline recommendation, and once the officer accepts that discipline recommendation, again, that's the final process there. However, if the officer rejects the discipline recommendation, then the matter is referred to the trial board. So a trial board will be convened. The trial board will have the hearing. They'll render a decision. If the trial board, again, adjudicates the officer or determines that the officer is exonerated, that, again, is the end of the process there. If the trial board concludes that there's significant findings to find that the allegation is sustained, they have 30 days. The officer then has 30 days to seek a judicial review from the circuit court. So the officer, if they disagree with the trial board's decision, the officer can petition the circuit court and have the matter reviewed. That's the process.
Okay. One, any questions for Cindy on that? We're gonna forego the test today, so. Because we're giving you a lot of information. Now, Cindy mentioned a matrix as she went through the process. There is now a matrix that went into effect, I think, July 1st, which is the statewide police disciplinary matrix, which will be, the ACC will be using to ensure that there's some consistency in how disciplinary actions are done throughout the state of Maryland. So there's like a matrix to show that. It's in your packet. We're not going to go through it in detail because there's a lot of information you're getting today that you will use as a reference. Cindy, thank you.
Yes, sir.
So just referring here, it's in your packet. There's a resolution 07-22 that was action taken by the Board of County Commissioners in February, which created the Calvert County Police Accountability Board, the ACC, and also the Trial Board. That reference is in there in terms of the action taken by the county commissioners. There's also in your binder state legislation that relates to this. As you know, this legislation came out of the state, and for consistency across all of the local jurisdictions. So you have detail here. If you're not familiar with looking at state bills, it may look like it's they tried to do something and scratched it all out, struck all that stuff, but that's how they do it. Until you get a final clean bill, and I have not seen a final clean bill, but it's supposed to show you all the action that's taken. But if you're not used to it, it looks like, what the heck went on here? This is a clean bill that went into a committee. Now it looks like it's all scratched out. But that's what you got. So you got those two things in there that you can read to get some background on that. Okay, we had introductions, and these are the Police Accountability Board members and the length of their terms. For the first term, of course, you stagger so that we're all not coming off the board at the same time. So these are the length of the terms that were, the length in which they were appointed by the Board of County Commissioners. And that's in your packet also. In terms of the membership, it said we should be comprised of 9 members. We do have 9 members. And it tells here about 2 members should be retired law enforcement, and it goes through the requirements for Maryland. 2 members, let's see, at least 5 years, not less than 3 members should be from a minority population within the county, and 1 member should be a mental health practitioner. And then there are additional criteria here, and this is to ensure that we do have a diverse board and boards and committee that we are putting in place. Talks about the length of the term. Talked about the chair and the relative experience of the chair. It's required by the state. Just to give you a little background, I worked for several state agencies. I worked for the Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services, and when I worked there, I was responsible for the criminal justice database and the fingerprinting. Also had the Police Commission Training Center as one of my clients from a technical standpoint. I also had the opportunity to put together a strategic plan for the Maryland Department of Natural Resource Police. And that was a really good experience to get to really dig down into what they needed to look at. What are their opportunities, threats, strengths and weaknesses. We talked about how they needed to build their budgets and all that. So I really had an opportunity to really work with them. As I go through, if you got any questions on any of these slides, just let me know. Okay, so the commissioners established the membership. They put the 9 members on the board. They do have a budget in place. The staffing is in place, so we are fully staffed. We do have a budget for at least at the time that they put the budget together, the best view of what it would cost for the first year. They appointed a chair and established the procedures for records keeping. The role, we hold quarterly meetings. This is the PAB, quarterly meetings with the heads of law enforcement agencies and otherwise work with law enforcement agencies and the county government to improve matters of policing. So in order for us to do that, we need some additional information in terms of how law enforcement do what they do today in terms of disciplinary actions and how they handle complaints. So that'll be for a future meeting. So it says quarterly, but there's a need to have additional meetings in order for us to get up to speed in terms of what we are responsible for. So that's why you have a meeting. This is not actually one of the quarterly meetings. It's sort of an orientation for us. And there may be a need for a couple of other ones before we get to the quarterly meetings. One of the responsibilities we do have is to appoint members to the Administrative Charging Committee and any trial board members. Commissioners appointed 3 members to the Administrative Charging Committee, so we have 2 members that we should appoint. And we also responsible for receiving complaints of police misconduct filed by the public. And we talked about that process that's in place in terms of how that's handled once we get it. So the quarterly meeting, review the outcomes of the disciplinary matters considered by the charging committee. So as we get the complaint, send it to the law enforcement agency, and then it comes back to the administrative charging board, and they will deliberate and decide what the disciplinary action would be. And so we would get a summary of that as the PAB, what has been going on for that year and what does it look like. And by December 31st, submit a report to the Calvert County Board of County Commissioners recommending any policy changes that would improve police accountability. And that will be done, of course, with the opportunity we have to work together to identify what would need to change in order to improve the process. Okay, so the Administrative Charging Committee. As the chair of the PAB, I'm also a member of the Administrative Charging Committee, and Norm and Stacy are also members of it. I think, Norm, we have to correct your name tag there.
Corrected it.
Oh, it is? Okay. And we have the responsibility today to appoint 2 additional members to the Administrative Charging Board. We'll get to that. There are 5 members by state law. And I mentioned the chair, or the chair is her designee is a member of the ACC. The Board of County Commissioners already appointed 2. We will appoint 2. And once the ACC meets, they will elect their chair as to who will chair the ACC meetings. And the chair of the charging committee should serve no more than 2 consecutive terms as chairperson. So this is what the ACC will be doing. review findings of a law enforcement agency's investigation, review any body cam footage that may be relevant to the matters covered in the complaint of misconduct, and determine whether or not to administratively charge the police officer who's the subject of the investigation. Now, we'll point out here that it says you will be reviewing body cam footage. So if you're a member of the ACC, you will be given secure laptops provided by the county in order to facilitate doing that. Determine whether or not, okay, we did say that. And it just talks about the process that Cindy already went through in terms of what happens once the charge is made. There's an option that the officer being charged can request a trial board. And we have trial board. We have 3 members on that would be on the trial board. Retired Judge Larry Lampson is here today. He's the only member on it right now. The PAB will appoint a citizen to serve on this, and once there is an appeal to the trial board, a police officer appointed by the head of law enforcement, and I think it says of the same rank as the person who is bringing the case. So trial board member, we checked all the boxes on that too, in terms of we're very fortunate to have a retired judge who said yes. Thank you, Judge. So the trial board officer does not accept the discipline recommended by the ACC or law enforcement agency executive. The matter is referred to a trial board for a hearing and decision. Okay. One of the things that, any questions so far, any member of the trial board or any PAB members? When I talked to several of the PAB members regarding, at that time, what I thought would be training for us, I had mentioned at that time it was a week, not a week, but a day training here in Southern Maryland. Well, the Police Commission, Training Commission has actually done more work on that, so we have more detail now in terms of the training. The members of the ACC, you have in your binder this letter also. There is required training for the ACC, and that training is it's a 40-hour, 5-day training class, and that is required training. And they also specify in the letter that it's required that you take it all. You can't take like 2 days of it, and then for some reason you can't make the 3rd day, you come back on the 4th day. I think they're saying no. So I think no would mean you may have to start it over again. I'm saying that. They didn't say that, but this is required training. So we'll talk to the members of the ACC about the logistics of that. They're trying to do regional training so that you will not have to go to Sykesville where the training center is. I'm pushing for regional training. They're waiting for us to appoint our members, and once we do that, they will schedule the training for us. So you may have some questions around that training, and I think Melanie Woodson, the director of HR, we can gather with her and work out some details there. And you'll know, your names will be submitted after the meeting today to the Training Commission so they can start communicating with you and setting up that training. Okay. Any questions on the PAB role and responsibility, or the trial board, or the ACC? All right. Because this is a public entity, we also come under the Maryland's Open Meetings Act. We are required to, well, I'll just turn it over to John. I don't want to take any of your thunder, John. So County Attorney John Norris will give us a briefing on the Open Meetings Act.
Good morning. I was told that it must be a brief briefing as well. So I apologize. We just put this together this morning, so it is not in your binders today, but I will give you a quick overview. As the chairman indicated, the public bodies are subject to the Maryland Open Meetings Act. One of the most important parts of transparency and confidence in government is implementation of the Open Meetings Act. There are a number of functions that staff are going to perform for you, one of which cannot be taking the training that's offered for closed session. That must be done through one of three methods. The local government Academy for Excellence in Governance offers training. The Attorney General's office offers training through the website, and the State Board of Education provides training through their website. So what is the Open Meetings Act? It defines different functions that a public body may do. Those include things like quasi-judicial and judicial functions that are exempt from most of the meetings. So the charging committee, the trial board will not have to post agendas for most of your meetings. The charging committee, as you're adopting administrative, if you're going to adopt bylaws, if you're going to adopt procedures, charging committee will have to advertise those kind of meetings. They must be advertised reasonably with reasonable advance notice, which is not defined. But the agenda must be published 24 hours before the meeting. Then the statute goes on to say you can amend that agenda once you do meet. So we're not real sure whether substantive amendments, we haven't gotten good guidance yet, whether substantive amendments the day of the meeting can be allowed. So we've advised against. When you have a quorum together at a social function, and that is, a quorum is more than half of the members of the body at a social function, as long as you're not talking public business, you're not in violation of the act. But if you start talking about the business of the Police Accountability Board or the charging committee at the social function, you can run afoul of the act. Emailing. Presence includes email. It includes by telephone. It includes Teams messaging. It includes Zoom. So any way in which there can be a quorum that comes together to discuss the public business, you're likely going to be subject to the act if you are not doing a quasi-judicial, judicial, or administrative function. So what is an administrative function? Administrative function means you're not doing legislative, quasi-judicial, judicial, or legislative. So administrative function is kind of defined by what it isn't. It's when you're not doing something else. But it has also been limited by the Talbot Boys decision, so you cannot meet to change policy and call that administrative function. But if you have an existing policy and you're administering it, that is considered administrative function. 15 exceptions allow you to go into closed session. When you go into closed session, you have to keep minutes. Anybody that votes on a motion will be recorded as voting on a motion. The people that made the motion, seconded the motion, will all be published to the public. Consider that when you go into closed session. You have 15 opportunities to go into closed session. Only 1 or 2 of them might apply to the Police Accountability Board. We're using personnel today. There's a very specific motion that we prepared for you for one of the board members to read. And because we know the chair has taken the training, we don't have to go through the other checklist. We're going to encourage everybody to go at least to the Attorney General's website, spend 45 minutes to an hour that it takes to take the test and ask any questions that you have following it. So we're going to go into exec session today. We'll do a closing statement. We'll publish that with the minutes for today's meeting, which will be the recording. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to call us. So make sure everybody gets a copy of this. It has the website on the back for the Attorney General's page, and that's also been provided separately. It has.
We have during that, you sent it out in the email, Liz? We sent it out? No?
Okay.
We-
We'll make sure.
we'll
send it out to
We'll
make sure.
you also get it
Yes.
electronic. Are there any questions right now?
John, thank you.
Thank you.
I have completed the training. It's about 45 minutes to an hour online on the Attorney General's website. So it's, I think Liz and Cindy also have completed the training. It's just good if you're not familiar with these meetings that are held in public. It's good just to get familiar with it, because they do have a lot of examples out there that they do. You have to think about after you go through the coursework part of it. They sort of quiz you a little bit. It's not graded or anything. They just want to make sure that you understand what you just read. So it's relatively easy, and I would recommend that if you have an opportunity to go out there and look at it and take it, and you learn a lot about these public meetings. Just remember that this meeting is a meeting that's required, we're required to have in public under the Public Meetings Act. It's not a public meeting. The difference is during the deliberation of this meeting, we're not allowing any public input. You can observe and you have public comment at a certain time on the agenda, but it's not a interactive public meeting. So that's one of the things that transparency is very important. And when we do go into executive session, that John mentioned the 15 reasons and the reason today, it's very important that we go in for the right reason and only talk about what we're going in for, so that when we do report out as to what we did, we're not going behind closed doors to talk about something that we said we were going to talk about something else. So just want to clarify that the many meetings I've been into, and John and I have been in many meetings, this is critical. That, sometimes even for a new committee, when we do close the door and have an exec session, we can only talk about the item that's on the exec session agenda. Okay, any questions or anything? This is a quiet group so far, I tell you. Okay, maybe I should give a test at the end of this. The next item, let's see, I think it's the discussion of future topics. One of the things that we do need to do is we need to have a presentation from the law enforcement agency, if you will, to get a better understanding in terms of what they do. So one of the things that, as we were putting this together, thinking about some of the topics or some of the things that you would want to know about the law enforcement agency that will help us do our job. Remember, part of what we do is to look at opportunities to enhance that whole policing process through the input we're getting, through the type of complaints and how we are administering disciplinary action. So one of the things on the agenda, and if you have the detailed agenda under item H, law enforcement agency presentation. Our next meeting, we should start hearing from law enforcement. Under here, I have some items that you may want to consider from the law enforcement agency, probably about a 20-minute presentation, if you will. One would be the organization structure. Just if it's the sheriff's office, and under how you're structured. Two would be the overview of investigation, of the investigation process and procedures. And I know that the internal investigation group could give us that kind of, what do you do when you get a complaint. Summary of complaints and outcomes for 2022. Any complaints and how they were handled. I'm not talking about names. I'm only talking about numbers here. This will be part of a public presentation, so we're not going to get into names or details of the case, which would indicate that you can figure out who the name is. Results of any federal investigations relative to the county that you are aware of. Policies relevant to the PAB and the ACC, previews including body-worn cameras, use of force, or vehicle pursuits. So any policies you have related to that. Those are some of the things that I thought we would want to have in that first presentation from law enforcement. Is there anything else do you see that we would like to have when they make that presentation?
I think that kind of covered it, Mr. Wilson. The one thing I was thinking about is any number, as you start to report those numbers, numbers of like discrimination complaints that may have been lodged or excessive force complaints. I think you mentioned excessive force, but I didn't hear discrimination, so anything that kind of falls in that wheelhouse as well.
Okay. Anything else we want to have them prepare for us? The more we can give them specificity, they will be able to answer our questions when they do come to meet with us. Okay. If anything comes up after, Cindy will coordinate what that presentation would look like with the law enforcement agencies. I think for the state police, it would be helpful if there's a better understanding of that structure. The superintendent, because that structure relates to the area, our jurisdiction, I guess it would be, because you do have another structure in place, and we need to understand what that is. Thank you. Well, that was easy. Easy group. Okay. Because of the nature of the work of the ACC, there will be separate ACC meetings, and they do meet quite often. Right now, they're saying they should meet on a monthly basis. We're still looking at what does that really mean. If we don't have anything for them to act on, does that mean we have to get together and say, okay, we don't have anything, and open the meeting and close the meeting? I don't know. We're going to have to get with the county attorney and any reference we can have from the state to clarify that. But right now it says the ACC should meet monthly. Let's see. However, if we have the kind of meetings like today, the kind of informative meetings, we want to make sure that the ACC and the trial board are also invited to get this kind of information so that we're all on the same page in terms of what's going on. Plus, we'll have this recorded anyway. So there will be the next meeting where I talked about the law enforcement presentation. That's an additional PAB meeting to further codify the PAB process and procedures. We need to consider bylaws, whether we need bylaws in terms of the state law is pretty specific. We do have the local piece too, but we need to talk about the need for bylaws. Yeah. Meetings, it would clarify things like, do we want to have the option of having people dial into the meeting, members dial into the meeting versus face-to-face? And if you can do that, I would prefer to see your face, quite frankly. So I prefer that option versus virtual, but that may be a hardship for someone who's traveling for a long period of time somewhere and they're not, can't make it in. So we need to have bylaws to clarify those kinds of things. So we have to get with Cindy and John and look at what it would take to put together some bylaws. And we do need a memorandum of understanding with the Calvert County State's Attorney's Office, because that's all part of that whole charging process. So we have to, one of the action items here would be to get with State's Attorney Harvey and to work through what we need to put in place, so that if something comes up, we do have a document that says, yeah, we can do these things. And I don't know whether we need a MOU with the state police, but I know when I worked for the state, any interaction of one agency with another, an MOU was required. I don't know whether that's still required now or not. So we can work through that if necessary. Any other topics that you can think of that you would want to know about that would help you be better prepared to do your job? Once you look through some of this stuff, something may come to mind, and you can either email me and Cindy, and we can add that to the list.
So I do think from your discussion, it sounds like both the county sheriff's department and the state police will be sort of prepared to give a detailed presentation. Since this is a new board, I think it certainly would be helpful for me. I'm sure it would be helpful for everyone else to understand what processes each one of you have, your organizations have gone through in the past prior to the establishment of this particular board and the ACC and all of that. What processes you followed when complaints were brought forth, and how you investigated those, what the outcomes were. So in addition to that information about the number of officers disciplined and the number of complaints, I think it'd be helpful to understand what that process looked like, just overall, so that we can kind of, do a better job when we're reviewing and offering input or guidance or recommendations.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think what would be helpful would be to explain the changes that took place on July 1st and how it affected law enforcement. Because the Law Enforcement Bill of Rights went away on June 30th, I guess. And now you have this matrix and there's some other things in place. So that may be helpful, maybe a couple bullets on that piece. Because there are changes that went into effect. Okay. Anything else that you feel that we need to think about to be able to do our job? Okay. All right. We're down to future meeting schedule. So for the PAB, we know we have the quarterly meetings, but there may be other meetings in between as we get up to speed. So this meeting was at 10 o'clock. This meeting, some of the counties are meeting in the evenings, or they have different times than this. Clearly, this is a meeting in public. It has an opportunity for public comment, and that opportunity can be dialed in or however we go about public comment. Or instead of 10 o'clock in the morning, is there another time that you would prefer to have a meeting? I know I've talked to Dawn, and Dawn is in the school system, and up until about 3:30, I think you're pretty busy. You can't walk away from that. So we need to factor in, when do we want to meet? So right now we have, Liz, we have 2 dates for September, right?
The 14th and 15th.
The 14th and 15th of September, one of those days. And it's a matter of whether you want that to be an evening, a 10 o'clock meeting, an evening meeting, or maybe a 4 o'clock meeting, or however you see it. Any discussion on that? It's open for discussion.
Is that the ACC as well, or just the PAB?
It's, the ACC, we need to talk about separately, because you guys got a different role here, and it's, but for the, right now, it's for the information type meetings that we have here, whether we want them in the, so just share, what do you think will be good for you?
I think after 4 o'clock will work for me.
After 4 o'clock?
Yes.
I'm always gonna go for the latest time.
The latest time?
Whatever y'all decide.
I agree. I think that would be more convenient.
After 4, or, I'll narrow it down a little bit more once I get some, anyone else?
I think if we have enough planning time in advance, you know, I can work with any time of the day.
Okay.
Afternoon, I think, is better for most because of work schedules, but I think if we're looking at a quarterly meeting 3 months from now, you know, if it had to be at 10 o'clock, we could make that work.
Wednesdays are best for me.
Wednesdays are best for you, okay.
Open,
Open.
retired.
Retired and open. I'm retired, but I'm not open. I'm open,
Actually, the 15th, that's one of the proposed dates.
yeah.
Wedding in North Carolina, or nephew.
14th is a Wednesday, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So 14th or the 15th.
Dinner time is tough. If you're talking 4 o'clock and it goes till 6.
Okay,
That's a little,
so at 4, but not a long meeting, you're saying? Okay, well, I want to narrow it down. It looks like we're pretty flexible with 4 or after. Now, is that 6:30? Could it start at 6 or 6:30?
Yes.
Anybody having a problem with the 6 o'clock or 6:30 meeting? John, keep me honest here. Okay. Okay. So, we want to say 6:30?
Perfect.
6:30, okay.
Yep.
Anyone would have a problem with 6:30? Okay. Liz, I think that narrows down to Wednesday at 6:30 for our next meeting. And we'll factor that in for the quarterly meetings also.
Did I hear somebody say the?
14th.
That's the
Was
14th.
the 14th or the 15th of that day? Somebody had a bad day.
15th.
The 15th, okay. And then, Mr. Chairman, the next is also going to be an informational
Yes, it'll be,
presentation, so I
Right.
didn't know if you were going to include the ACC on that as well. This is informational.
sure, I think it'll be helpful to include the ACC.
Providing they're not.
Trial board, you're always welcome. Okay, so Liz and Cindy, is that the 14th, the next one?
Okay, 14th.
14th
6:30.
at 6:30 here at the HEB.
Correct. We also have October 5th available, which is
October
Wednesday.
what?
5th.
Let me look at that. October 5th. So we got the next meeting. Let me look at October 5th real quick. I got. That's a crazy cut. October 5th.
We have it tentatively penciled in, Mr. Parent, if you wanted to hold an October meeting as well.
Well, let's hold that date. That's a Wednesday. Hold it, that date for, October 5th at 6:30. And then we'll look at, so just keep in mind for the quarterly meeting, we'll have a little bit of flexibility on it, but we're looking at 6:30 meetings going forward. That's what I'm hearing. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
And the goal is to do monthly meetings for how long?
Well, I think, I don't want to go too far out, but I know we should have at least the September, and the October may end up being the first quarterly meeting. But we may not have enough to do a quarterly meeting, but then we need to start looking at the annual report, which is due the end of this year. Although it's a short year for us, that's due by December 31st, so we still have to get that done. Okay, that's great. This is an easy group.
Today.
Today. Qualify that, Susan. Let's not go too far, right? I think that covers, Cindy, do we have anything else to cover under topics, or? I think we covered everything that we wanted to cover.
Yes, sir, that's the.
Okay. We're at the point on the agenda. I'll make sure I don't want to skip a slide here.
Next is public comment.
Okay. Next is public comment. And the board adopted a resolution, this is the Board of County Commissioners in 1989, intending to maintain the order and decorum of the governmental process. We will adhere to that resolution. The Ethics Commission has asked that we remind speakers at public comment that lobbyists include those who seek to influence public policy, and lobbyists must register in advance. And John, I'll turn it over to you now. Do we have anyone, well, first in the room, do we have anyone in the room for public comment? Okay. Go to the mic, and John.
We'll ask you to identify yourselves and whether speaking as an individual or the designated representative of the group. Those speaking as an individual will be allocated 2 minutes. Those that are speaking as the designated representative of a group will be allocated 5 minutes. Those who are watching virtually, please raise your hand using the raise your hand function or pressing *9 if you're by telephone. Virtual speakers will be identified by the last 4 digits of their phone number or their screen name, and unmuted one at a time. If necessary, you may unmute yourself using *6. So we'll start with those in the room. First speaker to the microphone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
See if I can get this down. Good morning. My name is Mary Ann Zaversnik, and I'm representing the League of Women Voters. First, let me congratulate you on your appointments to this important board. The League, along with other organizations and individuals, played an integral part in the development of the Police Accountability Board resolution. This morning, we asked a couple of questions, and some of these you have spoken to. In fact, you've done a lot of work, and I congratulate you on where you are today. You spoke about looking at the complaints that have come in for 2022, just by the number and the complaint, and how it was the resolution of that complaint. Is there any thought of going back further than 2022, since it would give you information to report back as to how improvements can be made? And also, is there any thought of getting some of the cases without identifying information, like names, in order to assess new cases that are coming in? Just some thoughts. We believe also that, as many of you have said, and I think all of you agree, that it's imperative for the board to have access to documents in order to assess the effectiveness of the process. And we ask that, that you, as you've said, always consider fairness, equity, and transparency. And we thank you for your work, and congratulations again.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Bob Harvey. I'm the Calvert County State's Attorney, and I also want to welcome you and thank you for your service to this important board. You know, there was some mention at the beginning of the program about character building. When I moved down to this county 38 years ago, there was a big tobacco field growing out behind my house. And I went to a fellow named Hagner Mister, who was a lifetime resident of the county commissioner. I said, Hagner, before I die, I want to get out in that field. I want to cut some tobacco. He said, Bob, no, you don't. So that aspect of my character building has never taken place. The field is, of course, gone now. Ladies and gentlemen, the State's Attorney's Office has two goals or objectives for this board. One, I want to ensure that there is an open line of communication between my office and the Police Accountability Board, and the Citizen Charging Committee, and the trial boards. I am going to serve myself personally as the designated representative of my agency. My number is 410-535-1600, extension 2369. If you can't get me, my deputy is named Tim Maher, M-A-H-E-R. He has the same phone number, and he will likewise be available. When you get into executive session, I'll give you my personal cell phone number, but not right now, if you don't mind. So we want to ensure that there's an open line of communication. The second thing that I would like to work with you on is making sure that nothing is done here that will impair or impinge upon the right of citizens and police officers to have a fair and impartial trial. Part of your responsibility is to field complaints of police misconduct. Sometimes, rarely in Calvert County, fortunately, but sometimes those complaints are also complaints of criminal misconduct that fall within the purview of my office. And it's very important that we ensure that whatever is done here doesn't impair or impinge upon our ability to investigate those complaints and our ability to ensure that if somebody gets charged, both the complaining witness or victim and the police officer has a right to a fair and public trial in our courts. One of the issues that has come up, and I'll just mention this in passing, when the legislature provided for all of you guys, they also established that the Attorney General's office has an independent investigative agency to look into complaints of police misconduct where a fatality is involved, where somebody dies. And one of the big issues that came up right away was, what are we going to do with police body cam videos? State's attorneys across the state objected to the release of those videos out of fear that it was going to impinge upon our ability to prosecute those cases. If the body cam is out, the public can see, and the accused can say, I can't get a fair trial. That's going to be an issue for you guys to look at too. The Attorney General decided ultimately that they were going to release body cam videos to the public within, I think, about 10 days of receiving them. As far as I know, it hasn't had any impact adversely on the State's Attorney's Office, but it's an issue out there for us to consider when we talk. One other thing I'll just mention in passing, we haven't talked anything about DNR, but Department of Natural Resources also has jurisdiction. In fact, they've actually got more authority and power than just about any police agency in the state. You know, they can stop your boat and search it without a search warrant, or they can stop you if you're on somebody's property hunting, and they can look at your gun without a warrant or anything. So they're also involved here in the county, and I don't know what role your agency is going to have with DNR, but they need to be incorporated as well, I think. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Tom Phelps, I'm the current secretary of the FOP. I'm the immediate past president. I'd like to welcome you all here. My 27 years in law enforcement, we were always under the Law Enforcement Officer Bill of Rights. It's something new, this whole process. You all, thank you for volunteering to do this, or I guess signing up to do this. As a charter member of board in the county, the Animal Matters Hearing Board, I helped develop the bylaws and everything for that, so you all have a task ahead of you. I think we have a common goal. You're going back to, I've listened to all you all when you opened up about your love for Calvert County, your deep roots in Calvert County. I've lived here all my life also, and not to go back further than you, my family's here from the 1600s, so not to, but I think, and that goes for most of the deputies at the sheriff's office, most of the deputies at the sheriff's office were born and raised in Calvert County. We have a love for Calvert County. I think we have a common goal with you all to make sure Calvert County is safe and properly protected, and also in the correct manner. So as the FOP was in the process, was involved in the process, and made comments while we were forming this board, I want to just welcome you all, and hopefully it all works good. So,
Thank you.
Have a good day.
My name is Arthur Diamond. I'm a county resident, been since the early 70s. I spent 25 years in the Department of Corrections and PG. When I first heard about this Police Accountability Board, I was really kind of worried. Because if you listen to the news from around the country, it's not good for the police. I applied to get on the board. My son was really against it. He's also a county sheriff, and he worked in the Department of Corrections and the Sheriff's Department in PG before coming down here. I wanted to get on this board because when I first heard about it, it was going to be an entirely civilian board with no prior law enforcement. And that scared the bejesus out of me, because if you get an entire group of people that don't know anything about what the police are doing out there, what they have to go through for 24 hours, it's scary. But now that I hear all of you and how you feel about it and how you feel about the police down here in Calvert County, as a resident of Calvert County, I feel a whole lot better. And I pray that all of you do maintain what you told us today and looking for the truth. There are one or two bad apples in every bunch, but that doesn't mean all of them are. So I hope you all do very well. Congratulations and good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Joining us virtually, we have Mr. Cormier has raised his hand. If you please identify yourself. First unmute yourself, and then identify yourself. Sorry, Mr. Can you start again, please?
Good morning. My name is Joseph Cormier, and I'm from Owings, Maryland. I just wanted to call in and say thank you to the members for volunteering to join this committee. Thank County Attorney John Norris and the county commissioners for doing such a good job advertising this committee. And I want to let you guys know that you're not here to tread water or speak into the wind. The community is here to observe and participate, and I thank you. I do want to say that when you're planning your meetings, that some of us with elementary school students, our kids are in school till 4 o'clock or later, so any meeting, after 6 would be much appreciated. Again, thank you so much for volunteering, and we look forward to seeing good things.
Thank you.
That is the only speaker on virtually that has raised their hand.
Okay. No one else in the room? Okay. That is the end of the public comment period. I thank everyone for participating in the public comment. The next item is an exec session, and I would need a motion to go into exec session.
Motion to recess to executive session pursuant to 3-305B1I to consider the appointment of appointees over whom it has jurisdiction.
It's been moved by Leslie. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Hawkins. I don't think there's a discussion on this one, so it's, we're in exec session now. That means that, of course, everyone leaves the room, including the ACC members and the trial board, because we'll be talking about the ACC in this meeting. So we'll take 5 minutes so that we can clear the room and then proceed into exec session.